Hello, everybody.
Going on.
Everybody sounds very excited to be in class today.
hmm
Yep.
Alrighty then. I guess we'll just get started. Alright. So, yesterday we went over how to spawn in vehicles through either command or key press. Before we go on to what we're going to do today, I actually wanted to, by popular request, go over how everything works. So that way you can understand how this applies and how you can use it for, whatever else you may think that you may want to use this for. Okay, so we'll start with the functions. I saw, I think one of you was able to get the display help text working. Awesome, great job. Notify is very similar. It should work very similarly. Okay, so let's go over the spawn car function we made. So, we are calling the spawn car. Inside of it, we are putting the car that we want to spawn. Now, as you saw when you're actually spawning the car, whenever you put in the car, it automatically spawns that car. How this works is what car goes in here is dependent on local car get hash key of car. It requests the model of car, so local car, and then while the model hasn't loaded, it requests it and then waits. Once the model has loaded, it continues, and then we grab coordinates to spawn the car, so x, y, z equals table.unpack get entity chords player ped ID. So this right here will get the chords of whatever entity you put into it. So in our case, we're using the player. So it's get entity chords, and then we're not using a vector3, so we set that to false. And then we have local vehicle that creates the vehicle of car, because this is the hash. And then we do coordinates, so x plus 3, y plus 3, and z plus 1. X and y are kind of like the location. It's kind of hard to explain because I wouldn't say like the x is side to side or the x is up and down or the y is up and down or the y is side to side. It's kind of more like you just have to mess around with it. Z is completely like where it is like height wise. So if it's too high, you want to lower it. If it's too low, you want to make it higher. So in our case, we're making it higher. And then 0 for the heading. And then as you can see here, after the heading, we have an is network, which is true. We want everybody to be able to see the car. And then if it's a mission entity, which we have it set to false here because we're setting it below, because we set the vehicle itself. So we set the vehicle as a mission entity, and then um, let's see, P1 has no effect. Yeah, then you don't really have to worry about any of that. Just make sure it's true. Then to warp the ped in a vehicle, we choose the ped, and then we have the vehicle, and then -1 is the C index. Any questions on how spawning a car works?
What does the local mean in front of
Oh,
some of the
local?
variables, whatever?
So, local, so for example, at the top of a script, you might see these a lot. So if we do like a local, whatever, right? Local whatever, this will normally be set to nil or whatever else you need it set to. This allows me to, for example, later on in like a function, I can use whatever, and then I can make it equal something else like true or whatever. This is basically just a great way for the best way I could explain it is they're variables. So this is like a global variable. These are more of, you know, a local variable where these are in here. Like for example, local vehicle, I can't use this outside. I can't use that outside because it's inside here. So if you ever see a local in a function, that means it's specific for that function. If you see locals outside, that means it's meant to be something that is interchangeable. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Danberg, all we really done so far is just go over how the whole spawning a car works and everything that goes into that. So, and then, oh, did not mean to
So,
save
so
that.
basically, having a local within a function is like having, like in C#, like when you have something inside a class, you make it private or something like that. Like you
Yeah,
can't use it outside the class.
yeah.
It's the same thing then. Okay.
Except for in Lua, we can't really transfer variables to other scripts, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
variable like that I set up here, this is global for this script.
Yeah.
But if I set a variable in here, this is only for this. I can't use this anywhere else.
Okay.
Okay. Then we have the client.lua. This is very simple. So we'll go over the register command. So we register the command. Spawn car is the command name, and then we have the function. So the source, that's who is typing the command. The args is the arguments of the command, and then raw really doesn't matter too much. All right, and then if args 1, so this means that there is an argument. So if there's one argument and it equals nil, then that means no model name found. However, spawn car arguments 1, then message vehicle spawned. Of course, if you did want to check to make sure that they typed in a name, like you could totally put in an error code like that is not a valid vehicle or whatever. That's completely up to you. This was kind of just to show you that, you can spawn a car with arguments of 1, and then you could put the message vehicle spawned.
What would be the function where it says source, args, and raw? What would that mean?
Okay, so this is very similar to like create threads, how there's a function here, except for in a lot of cases your function's empty, but in a command sense, the function is very similar to how these work. It's a function. So this is a function. So it's kind of like if you wanted to condense a function into something like this without having like any of this behind it. So instead, it's just a function, and then spawn car grabs arguments, and so then it checks arguments and then spawns the car based on those arguments. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Cool. Then we have the create thread. This constantly runs, so that's one thing you need to be aware of. If you do not have this wait 1, it will crash. This is absolutely necessary in all threads. You must have a wait or it will crash. So then we have a local cars. As we've explained, variables in a thread or in a function that is only to this. I can't use cars, h, car, anywhere else. If I wanted to, I'd have to put it above to where everything can use it. So then, local cars equals, and then we have a bunch of hash names in here. So the adder, the comet 2, the cheetah 2, and the buffalo. Then we have local h equals 74. These are, let me pull up the thing here. If you pull up the FiveM documentation and we go to controls and we type in, I think it was 57. Wait, what did I put? 74. I don't even know why I had that wrong. 74, you'll see that it's H. So that's where we got the 74 from. Then we have our local car, which grabs from cars math.random of the number and then cars. So it randomizes between everything in this list and chooses 1. And then we have the well true do. This means that this function is running, it's true. And we wait. And then if you press H, then it spawns the car. and then the pad index is 1. You don't really mess too much with pad indexes. I think the pad index is up here. I could be wrong. Huh. Anyway, most of the time we just put 1. I don't think I've ever seen a case where we use multiple. And then, of course, spawn car calls to our function in here, and then spawns car. Simple. Any questions on what we learned yesterday?
No, not really. There's just many different ways of doing that, like making a script that spawns vehicles and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like, you
Could
could
we now
totally,
find like
like,
3
make
different
this
ones?
different.
Yeah. No, it makes sense.
Yeah, you could also spawn a car through, like, a weight thing, or you could spawn a car. There's many different ways to spawn a car. I just wanted to show you at least 2 of the ways, and then you guys could try and, you know, figure out other ways that you can spawn a car as we get farther along. Alright, you ready for today's lesson?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Okay. Today in class, we're going to learn how to make rectangles on the screen and how to put text on the screen. That may seem like it would be pretty easy, but let me just show you a quick example from one of my own scripts on how something easy can go very complicated. This is how I am drawing a simple but stylish rectangle and text combination. This is how I'm using 2 different texts to display a timer. So as you can see, it can get kind of complicated. So just keep that in mind. Alright, so first thing we're going to do, head to your functions. I'm going to zoom in a bit so you guys can see a bit better. I noticed you guys might have a problem seeing because my 4K monitor, so. Okay. Now we're going to make a simple function. So function, in this case we're going to make a create rectangle. That way, if there is at any point where you need a rectangle, you can use this function. So we need an x, a y, a width, a height, and a color. Okay? Don't forget your end at the end. Okay. Then we have a local w, and this is just our width. Just kind of, I guess you really don't need this. Like, you could very well just use the width. What you do need is the x. So local x is our x minus, don't forget those, our width. See if I can remember. Uh, da, 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 actually, do we even need that? I guess we don't. Never mind. I don't know why I thought we needed that. That was... Oh, that was specifically... Okay. This one's very simple. So you just do draw rect, parentheses, and then as you can see, it brings up everything. So x number, y number, the width, the height, RGB, and then the alpha. So let's just put in x, comma y, comma width, comma height. Then the RGB, you can put in whatever color you feel like. I think for this demonstration, let me pull up RGB code. RGB color code. Doesn't really matter to me. I'll go with like a really nice looking blue. Okay, so 0R, 205G, and 255B. Okay, so 0, 205, and 255. And then the alpha is always 255 unless for whatever reason you want it transparent. So in that case, you'd put something different. So now you're probably wondering, why not just make it to where, actually I guess in this case we don't really need the color. Like why not just make it to where, oh fuck, now I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh, why not make it to where you just draw a rectangle like in a function, right? Like you can very well do this, but it is always better to just have a function that does it. And I guess if you did want to go with the color route, it would be the color and then one, oh, sorry, color 2 there, color 1 here, color 3 here, and then color 4 here. That way if you did want to like mess around with the color or the alpha or whatever you want to mess with without having to go back into the function, you could totally do that. And that's really like how you draw a rectangle. Of course, you'll see how it actually works. So the way this works for drawing a rectangle is it grabs the x, which is basically the center of the rectangle. It grabs the y point of the center of the rectangle. The width is just the width of the rectangle. Height is the height. R is, as you know, color codes RGB, so red, green, blue. And the alpha is, whether it's transparent or not. So, pretty simple. That is basically how we're going to create a rectangle. And text, I guess, like in our case here, we're going to create another function. Function create text. And I think in our case, all we really need for it would be, I need to try to think here. This one's a little different because, okay, so we need the X and the Y, because this will be like screen coordinates, because we have to like figure out where to draw it on screen. You know what? I don't even think with text, it's like, it's completely unnecessary to have a function. There's just too much that goes into it. So I think for this case, we'll just have our create rectangle. Then we're going to have another, oh yeah, sorry, move to your client.lua. We go in and create a new thread of function, parentheses, and then end, just like that. While true, do, end, wait 1, as always, to make sure it doesn't crash. Okay, so then we're going to grab the create rectangle function. Okay, so as you know, we need an x, a y, a width, a height, and a color. So in our case, let's put it at like the bottom corner, kinda. So, of course, as you'll learn over time, screen coordinates are a little bit complicated. So, but that's okay. So the x is 0.925, the y is 0.900, and then let's see, then we have the width and height. So we'll do 0.1150. I guess we could just do 1 and 1. It'd probably be easier than that, and you'll get to actually see how that works.
Did you start the SCP model, sir?
No, I'm in
You are
class.
going to be needing them.
Well, I'm in class.
Okay, after class?
Maybe.
Bruh, no one else can do it. You're the
Okay,
only
so
one out left.
0, comma, 205, 255, and then 255. And that should be all you need to create a rectangle.
Could you just expand those numbers? We look at like the 0.025. Like, what does that mean, really?
The what?
Like the 0.925, 0.900.
So these are screen coordinates. You'd really have to like mess around with these and like restart your script multiple times to see exactly where it puts it, which actually we're going to do right now. So go ahead, boot up your server, and we're going to mess around with this. We're going to mess around with changing coordinates so you can understand how screen coordinates work. We're going to mess around with the width and the height so you can mess around with that. That way you can really get a really good understanding of how the create rectangle works. And then we'll also do the same with the text. FiveM. Of course, FiveM has an update. And then, after you guys have a grasp of how this works, I will show you an example that is currently working of how you can use these rectangles and text in an actual script. Because I'm sure right now, like, yeah, cool, you know how to make a rectangle, you know how to make text, but how does it actually, like, work? Like, what's it do? Well, I'll show you that after we're done with the lesson for today. I'll show you an example of what you can do with it and how powerful it really is.
Sounds good.
Now, of course, as always, anything you see that's like on my screen that is not in PGN, obviously you cannot tell anybody about. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Because, I'm constantly, running around in the test server and everything, and if you were to see something that, hasn't been released for PGN yet, and you were to tell people, it just wouldn't be good. So.
Insta ban from the server.
Yeah, it's kind of confidential in a way, but yeah. Okay, so we're going to restart TK help. Okay, no errors. Where's our box? Alright, so there's no errors, but we don't have a box. Let's go figure out why that is. So no errors, but no box. Okay, so we have our create rectangle, which draws the rectangle, x, y, width, height. Then we have the colors, which colors should be fine. Width and height. Okay. You know what? Maybe it's this that's not working. Let's try 150. Yeah, because mine's a little different than what we're doing right now. Because like mine that I currently use, it uses like decimals and stuff, but I think I forgot that this will work differently. Nope, still no square. Or still no rectangle. Let's see, why are you doing this? Function, create rectangle, XY, width. Okay, so we draw the rectangle of the X, the Y, the width, the height. Huh. Are you just not responding for whatever reason? X, Y, width, height, color. Very interesting. 150, 100. I don't even know. What? Now I'm just trying everything just to see why our freaking rectangle doesn't pop up. Oh, there we go. Must have just had it in a weird spot. Well, there's our rectangle.
Can you keep your functions open so I can see what you did? Because I'm having the same.
Yeah, of course. So all we did is just went into the create thread and we were messing around with this.
These numbers are weird, man. Is
Yeah.
this something like muscle memory? Like you're gonna have to remember?
No. A lot of this, like, you just mess around with until you get it right. I will say that the function I showed you from before, that took me 4 hours to get right. Exactly where I wanted it. So
I'm
it's
getting
more of just a thing that takes
an error
time.
message.
Oh, what's your error?
Client Lou on line 30. Global create rectangle. In my Lua one.
Did
Just
you
looking at.
miss?
Oh
Alright.
wait,
Did you miss a comma
honestly.
somewhere? That would do it.
I had for create had a big C. Maybe that's.
Oh, yeah, that's that'd be a problem.
Find resource. Great. Oh, oops.
Okay, so as you can see, we have a rectangle. A lovely, lovely rectangle. Which is cool, but it's not in the right spot. As I said, we wanted it down in the lower corner. So, what we're going to do first is we're going to figure out how these coordinates work. So, 150, let's set it to 155 and see where the rectangle goes. Restart the script. It didn't really, if it moved, I cannot tell. So, we'll go a little bit more harsh. So, 170. So if it moves down, we'll immediately know. It looks like it's moving up in our case. So that means if I was to do 200, it's very hard to tell if it's moving up or if it's just like so big that it's moving across. Alright. Let's set this to like 300. Something drastic. It's just, why does it seem like it just stuck up there? What is your deal? Unless these are just so small that it just doesn't register. That's weird. It's like it's stuck up there. So the width is 3.2. What if I just do that? Oh, now it's gone. Okay then. 2. Interesting. Okay. We might actually do a little bit more to this create rectangle function. We might just go with the one that I use, because the one that it shows as an example just Really buggy. Really weird. Okay. Go back to your create rectangle function. We're going to do something. So, this one is primarily if you want to make like some type of like bar of some type that like you have a percentage of, but it'll also work for rectangle wise. So if you just want to create a rectangle, I just use 100% for this, so that way like it's not like half percentage or whatever.
I'm still getting a error for the color and the function as well. It just gives me attempt to index a number value local color.
Are you using these brackets here before doing the color codes?
Yeah.
And then you have commas inside.
Yep.
Send a screenshot of your code.
Yeah, share your screen so I can see it.
Sure.
Okay.
I don't know, it's super laggy when I try that from fucking FiveM for some reason. I don't know.
Okay.
This is function, this part.
So it doesn't like that part. Why would that?
No, sorry. Yeah, it doesn't like that part.
Oh, well that's because we haven't put in a percent yet.
No. I like this was before I did the percent.
Oh, okay.
I just
So it
followed
has
the
a
red
problem
belt.
with that part?
Yeah, and this is in the lua bit.
Create rectangle. 150, 100, 3.20, 0.5. I think you have too many numbers. Yeah, you have 5 numbers in front of the color instead of 4. You just need 4 numbers. So
If I
I
remove
think you have an
that, for
extra
example.
number somewhere. That should probably work. Well,
Oh,
it
yeah.
won't work right now because freaking we don't
Okay.
have the percent in, but
Oh, that's weird as well. Yeah, no, it worked, but my rectangle looks very different to yours. You know, the
yeah.
one where it didn't show up for you, it's nearly covering my entire screen for me.
Yeah, we're gonna fix our rectangles here. We're gonna add something that's like kind of what I would say unnecessary, but also it's a cool feature if like you ever need it, and you'll see why like in a case where I use this. Okay, so we're gonna go back into here. We're just gonna use the one that I use. So local W equals our width multiplied by our percent divided by 100. So this basically just gets the actual percentage. And then our local x equals our x minus our width times our percent divided by 100 again. And then I need to make sure that I'm in the right place. So it's after that second one. Divide that by 2. Outside of the parentheses, we do minus width, if I could spell, minus width divided by 2. And then in here, in the draw rectangle, we just add the plus w. So x plus w, and then y, and then w. And then the rest of it's the same. So height, color 1, color 2, color 3, color 4. Okay, let me go back to our client. And then I'm just going to use the same one that I'm already using. But I just need to change the thing. Create rectangle. There we go. So now it's going to use different coordinates. So now we're going to use create rectangle 0.925, 0.900. This is actually going to use screen coordinates. These are actually much better than what we were using before, because now it's easier to use. At least that's my opinion. They're easier to use. Then the width is 0.1150 and the height is 0.030. So they'll be kind of skinny. Then of course we have our color 32, 32, 32, 200. This is because I wanted it to be a little bit transparent. And then in our case, for the percentage, we're just putting 100 because we want the full rectangle to be there. Any questions?
Can you run back to functions real quick? I think I did it wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, this is very specific, I know. So basically our local W is our width, so we grab our width and then it multiplies it by our percent divided by 100. This is because if I just put in a percent here, it won't actually count as a percent. So like if you use a calculator and you put in 20%, if I don't do that divided by 100, it won't know what it's talking about. But if I divide it by 100, it grabs the percentage value of it, which is 0.2. And then our local x is our x, subtracting our width multiplied by our percent divided by 100 divided by 2. And then we subtract our width divided by 2. This allows us to have screen coordinates instead of terrible freaking normal coordinates. These are just easier to use. And then we simply draw a rectangle with our x plus our width, and then our y, our width, and then the height, color, color 2, color 3, color 4. This is basically for the indexes of our list. So in our case, it's these right here. This is index 1, index 2, index 3, and index 4. Any questions?
Nope.
Alright, then we're going to restart. As you can see down at the bottom there, let me actually set the time to noon. As you can see, I have a lovely bar down there. Very simple. We now have a bar that it sits there. That's what it does. Now you can overlay bars on top of each other. This is very simple. Now that we have a simple create rectangle function working, let me make another one. You guys don't have to do this. This is just demonstration. So then, restart it, and look, I have a second bar down there. It's a much thinner bar, but there is a bar. So that's how you can like overlay bars if you wanted to. So this we will call the rectangle. You do dash dash to do comments. These will not error. These won't like throw any errors or anything. Then we're going to make the text. So text, there's a lot that goes into it. So I'm going to copy and paste and then I'll go over everything about it. So I'm going to grab, I think that's everything I need there. Text, there's just a lot that goes into it, so just bear with me here. Okay, so first one is to set the text font. You can mess around with this as much as you want. I don't remember exactly how many fonts there are, so you'll just have to mess around with it until it stops changing. Set text proportional. This really doesn't do much, but we still put this in here just in case there is something that this does and we just don't know, but we just do because it works. Then we have the text scale. This is basically the size of the text. We have our color. As you know, it's very similar to RGB. So in our case, it's, I believe this is all white. It's 255, 255, 255, and 255. Then we have a drop shadow. This also works. You wouldn't really want to put a color on it. In this case, we're doing a black shadow, and you just need to set an alpha for it. Then we have the text edge. This is another one that we don't exactly know what it does. We just put it in, and then we set the text drop shadow, set text outline, and then we set the text entry of string because we're using a string. And we add a text component string of, in our case, like, in my case it was a timer, but you could put whatever here, you know, like, I don't know, your name, whatever, you know? Okay, this is important. So this is where it will draw the text in screen-wise. So this is another one you just have to mess with until you get it right. That's really it. And the way this works is like if you wanted a second one, you have to put all this in again. Like I wouldn't be able to just use a second draw text. And it's very weird the way this works is the draw text will only draw whatever text is above it. So it grabs everything here and then determines to draw the text from this. There's no like variable or anything that you can put in draw text. It just purely goes off of what's above it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So each time we draw a text, we have to like
Yeah,
copy and
you have to
paste all that.
copy, paste, and there's a second text. Little annoying, but that's just how it is. Alright. So, I'll go back to that in a second. I just want to show you how this works. As you can see, I have text down there at the bottom of my screen.